This is the second battle between me and Reptilicus. Reptilicus is commanding the Boii and I am commanding Egypt. We agreed beforehand that I would not use elephants or chariots. Then he would have used a different faction. So, Battle of the Pyramids. You can see our builds here. Fairly infantry heavy, but Reptilicus has the cavalry advantage. And while I have more infantry units, they are overall of a lower quality than Reptilicus's main line. And that is going to be a problem for me. At least the way I use this build. So, fairly standard deployment from both me and Reptilicus. Main line of swords, supported by flanks of cavalry and spears. Now, he has, I believe it is 6 cavalry units. I only have 4. 3 of them are citizen cavalry, so he has a decisive cavalry advantage. Skirmishing wise, we are fairly equal, with me having 3 peltasts and he having 3 Celtic bows. I have more spears than he has, but they are of a very low quality. However, they are Levi Thurio spears, so they can support fights quite effectively if they aren't engaged directly themselves. Now I'm going to try to defend my flanks as well as possible here from all of these horse units to stop from being rear charged, but already I'm making a mistake in allowing these gaps to form between my main line and my supporting units. That's going to come back to haunt me later. But I wanted to push my Levi Thurio spears. You can see I have attack orders on his heavy horse, so I want to push up my guys to throw javelins. I'm putting them into square formation, which will allow them to throw their javelins in 360 degrees without me having to micro them at all. So they can support in several directions. You'll see them throw javelins here, causing some casualties. But the problem is he's bringing in some axe warriors. I'm sending in my Galatian swords here. Reptilicus countercharges with these 2 units, and that's going to kill my Galatian swords very quickly. Over here as well, his sword followers are going to make mincemeat out of my units. He's putting his sword followers in shield wall, but my Galatians are going to tear through them nonetheless. However, I'm going to lose each and every fight against his sword followers with my Galatian swords, so he's going to be able to push through and create gaps in my main line. That's going to be a problem for me. Over here I'm messing up with my cavalry in chasing after some cavalry units while being engaged in other places. That's going to make me lose more cavalry than I would have needed to. So the main mistake I made here was not being able to support my main line and creating gaps for his cavalry to move through. Now, if I was to play this battle again, I would probably be a lot more conservative with my units and try to keep them together so that they could support each other. The plan was initially to use the Thurio spears to support the back line while engaging a bit more concentrated fashion along this front line here, but it was not to be. So Reptilicus was able to defeat my main line, and my flanks are falling quite quickly. So now he's going to be able to use his heavy horse at will, going for rear charges. He was able to sneak through this heavy horse, and they're getting some nice kills on my peltasts. So what you're seeing now is basically just the death throes of my Egyptian army. Some units holding out across the map, but just judging by where my units are, you can see how much I messed up this. And it's not to take anything away from Reptilicus, he played a very good game here. It's just that I am very aware that I made some pretty crucial mistakes myself in allowing my units to become so separated. So lesson learned there. Now it's just a matter of him mopping up these last few blobs. Not a huge amount of kills on the Oathsworn yet, because they were up against Galatian Royal Guard, but the Galatian Royal Guard, although they are very good units, they will start to fail when all of their supporting units around them die and they are charged from several directions, fired upon by Celtic bows and such. So this Egyptian build, I've had a lot of success with it, but then I've always been able to use the units more in a more combined fashion, use them better together and have several lines and such, but because Reptilicus deployed the way he did, I kind of wanted to mirror and match his movements, and that was a mistake because that allowed him to dictate the pace of the battle. And that way I went on the defensive and I tried to counter his moves, which opened me up for being basically flanked and rear charged and all the kind of stuff that will make your army die a horrible death. So pretty decisive victory here for Reptilicus. Called GG, well played. We'll have a look at the result screen. Just fast forward until the last unit dies. Close defeat, but Reptilicus killed almost 1500 of my guys, while I only killed 800 of his. You can see the amount of kills on his heavy horse here, very good. Very effective use of his heavy horse. His sword followers did well, very well, against my Galatian swords. Some of my Galatian swords did okay, but didn't come close to these sword followers. And my Galatian Royal Guard, because they were unsupported, they weren't able to kill as many guys as they can. Now the Citizen Cavalry and the Ptolemaic Cavalry were wasted by the way I used them, and the same can be said about these Peltasts, so I wasn't able to use this build to any significant effect, partly because Reptilicus played well, and partly because I used my units the wrong way. So the Levithuria Spears, they were useful, but they would have been even more useful in supporting the main engagement, because these Galatian swords won't be able to win many engagements on their own, but supported by Thuria Spears they can. So lesson learned, well played to Reptilicus, and I'll see you again on the battlefield.